Hello everyone, welcome back to another benchmark video. Today we'll be testing Elden Ring Night Train. For this test, I'm using a GTX 1650 DDR6 graphics card along with an Intel i5 12400 processor and 16 GB of RAM. All the drivers are up to date and none of the components have been overclocked. Additionally, all the background processors have been closed. Enjoy the video. At the low preset, during the beginning of the expedition, the aerial view shows a frame rate between 40 to 50 FPS. As we drop down to the ground, the frame rate reaches the mid 50s, giving us a range of 40 to 60 FPS with a 1% low of 30 FPS. The frame time latency is higher in the aerial view at around 26 ms compared to 20 ms on the ground. Inside caves, the frame rate reaches 60 FPS for the first time, which has a much lower frame time latency of around 17 ms. However, as we exit the cave, it falls back to the lower 50s with a higher frame time latency. Inside the fort, performance is similar, but here frame rate sometimes reaches 60 FPS with a 1% low of 30 FPS. During intense situations such as boss fights, frame rates range from 40 to 60 FPS, usually staying close to the mid 40s. Frame time latency can go as high as 26 ms, which is acceptable. During transition to the next day, FPS dropped to the high 30s for the first time. Regarding overall game appearance at the low preset, the graphics appear slightly blurry and soft. Next, at the medium preset, the game looks better than at the low preset, with improved depth in the shadows of the grass and vegetation, as well as the better reflections. In terms of frame performance, the aerial view shows frame rates falling to the mid-30s, reaching 35 FPS at times. However, frame time latency remains similar to the low preset. On the ground, frames lie in the range of 40 to 60 FPS, occasionally reaching 57 FPS with a 1% low of 30 FPS. Inside forts, frame rates performance resembles that of the low preset, ranging from 40 to 60 FPS with a 1% low of 30 FPS and a frame time latency around 18 ms. During intense situations like boss fights, frame rates lie between 30 to 50 FPS, typically staying close to 40 FPS. With a 1% low of 30 FPS, the frame time latency is around 25 ms, which is not as high as expected. While transitioning to the next day, frame rates fall to the mid-30s, similar to the low preset. Overall, frame performance is somewhat comparable between the low and medium preset for the most of the time. Moving to the high preset, the game looks significantly better compared to the low preset. The characters are more detailed, colors are more vibrant, and vegetation appears much better. In terms of frame rate, during the aerial view, they do not drop below 35 FPS with a 1% low of 25 FPS. As we reach the ground, frame rate range from 30 to 60 FPS with a 1% low of 27 FPS, but usually staying close to 40 FPS. Frame time latency reaches 30 ms for the first time. Inside locations like fort or caves, frame rates lie between 40 and 60 FPS, typically sticking close to 50 FPS for the most of the time, with a 1% low of 28 FPS. During intense situations like boss fights, frame rates vary between 30 and 50 FPS, often staying close to the mid-30s with a 1% low of 30 FPS. The frame time latency is around 25 ms. While transitioning into the next day, frames can drop as low as 30 FPS with frame time latency crossing the 30 ms mark. Finally, at the max preset, the aerial view shows frames close to the lower 30 FPS mark. with a 1% low of 25 fps. Here, frame time latency graph exhibits regular large spikes, often above the 30 ms mark, reaching as high as 33 ms. Once we land on the ground, latency decreases but remains about 20 ms for the most of the time. On the ground, frames are in the range of 30 to 40 fps, but usually sticking close to the lower 30s. Inside areas like caves and forts, frame rates typically range from 30 to 40 fps, often staying close to 30 fps with a 1% low of 25 fps. Frame time latency remains about 30 ms for the most of the time. In intense situations like boss fights, frame rates fall between 20 and 40 fps, occasionally dropping to 25 fps. Frame time latency consistently stays about 30 ms, reaching as high as 35 ms at times. During transitions to the next day, FPS drop to 27 fps, and the frame time latency can reach as high as 35 ms. Now, let's come to the conclusion. Should you buy this game or not? If your configuration is similar to mine, then you can definitely go for it. The game is easily playable at low to medium preset, providing a solid experience close to 40 to 60 fps. Thank you for watching the video, and don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more gaming content.